Welcome to Livestream number 141. Today is April 4th, 2018. It's a Wednesday. It is windy as heck here in upstate New York. Actually, also got some snow today. But it's really windy. If there starts being issues with the live stream today, then it's probably on my end, not on yours. So, yeah, it's just been crazy. Garbage cans flying around and all that stuff. See, we've already got people in here. That's absolutely awesome. Today's topic is we're going to continue on the part we did yesterday. Hinges, and we're going to do it kind of like a plastic latch. So what we started yesterday, let me show you, was we kind of model up this type of box. And this all comes out of that I'm trying to be better at answering questions that you guys ask. Especially by using my email, lars.christensen@autodesk.com. And I kind of thought I could throw some of those different questions into modeling up this box. Today we're going to add the lid on it. We're going to add a hinge on the back and some latch. And I'm going to get into it just in 2 seconds. But I just wanted to say, one of the things that I learned the most of when I started modeling up was seeing how other people are modeling up. I am not a plastic engineer, and I'm not really trying to make the perfect box. I'm trying to show you tools you can use inside of Fusion 360 to whatever you are modeling up. So I know we're going to have some interference issues. It's not going to be perfect, but my job is to try to show you some of the different tools. I'm throwing some tips and tricks and stuff in there. I also gotta say that I got a few emails on yesterday's, and I'm not going to repeat what we did yesterday because we made it all this far. But in case somebody didn't watch yesterday's live stream, because that's fair, we model up this box here with some dividers. We were specifically yesterday talking a little bit about the ORing groove. We added that in there. We kind of like cut some sections out of the part here. One of the things, just in case you didn't watch yesterday's live stream, that is probably important to point out was I started out by creating 2 components in here. I used what is called rule number 1 on the forum, and that means we can have an assembly because there's going to be a lid and a box. So we haven't done the lid yet in here. So rule number 1 suggests that you start, if you know you're going to make an assembly, if you know you're going to make multiple bodies, suggest that you create those components first. Now, this ended up costing some emails to me last night, and I'm sorry, I'm behind. I'm reading all my emails, but I'm a little bit behind answering everybody back, and I'm working on that. But let me just kind of like, what I did yesterday, let me open a new design. What I did yesterday was I said, we know we're going to make a box. We know we're going to make there's going to be 2 components in here. There's going to be a lid and a box itself. And I went ahead and I created the 2 components. I right-clicked up here and said new component. That was 1. Right-click, new component. That was 2. And then I named them, slow left-click, and I named them box. And then I named the other one the lid. And yesterday, we only worked in the box. We never touched the lid. As a matter of fact, if we go in here right now, you will see the little fisheye is on Livestream box number 1. If I go down and switch that over to the box, you will see here we have the whole history for the box. If we switch it over to the lid, then, well, not so much. Then there's no history because the lid have not been created. So that was what I did yesterday. It's called rule number 1. You can read more about it on the forum. But what we're trying to avoid with this is that you could also, I'm opening a 3rd document, without creating the components first. If I went in here and I started sketching this box here, use the S key we talked about yesterday, and we did one that was 100 by 120, and then we extruded it up, right? Q for extrude, and now we have created this 1 component, this box here. If we now realize that, now we got to turn it into an assembly, we're going to have a lid in here too, and that's going to be a component in itself. You could go into bodies and right click and say that you want to create a component from body, okay? Now you would get that as a component, but because this history tree is true to what was created, that means that if we go into that component, there is nothing in here other than that from body to component. And if we go up to the save here, the sketch and the extrusion is in the main assembly and not under the component. And that's one of the things, that's just one of the great powers inside of Fusion, is that history line is true. And you don't want to mess with that. So that was the reason. You could absolutely do this. And don't, I'm going to maybe bite my tongue, but don't think that what I just did here by going into that and create that component, turn that body into a component, don't think that this is bad. This is not bad. It's just now later down the line when we're creating the lid and stuff, that these two things would not be down in the history tree. And I think most humans, we like to kind of get things organized more in our head than anything else. So that was what I meant. Somebody's emailed me about sub-assemblies. I've talked about this whole rule 1 and before. I've talked about, I'm going to save this one. I've talked about, the difference between components in other live streams. I'm not going to get into that right now. I'm going to try to compose that in an email. But I thought, in case you missed yesterday, then that was kind of like why we end up here. What also means that when we're looking at the box right now active, we see this. If I go up and do the live stream box up here, you will see we have 2 more in here because that's where we created those 2 components. So that's kind of like in the history line. So Robert is asking, is that draft in this part? I have not added that yet. I would not add draft to this part till I had finished designing it. We're not gonna get that. We're not gonna get that today. But there is a draft in here. We could absolutely do that, Robert, for another live stream another day. Okay. That was 8 minutes of me yapping. You guys are so patient with me. Really appreciate it. So let's get into this part here. Let's get in and start modeling the lid. So yesterday we got it all the way up here to this box. And there needs to be more done to this box. The latch and the hints we're going to add on to this. Other things could be done to this box. But let's just go ahead and do the lid. Now I'm going to go ahead here and activate the lid in here. When I do that, you will see that things gets transparent. This is a way that Fusion does to kind of help us, show us that that we are now in a lid and we're not in the box. You can turn this off. Go up to Preferences. Go into Design. And the first one up here, Active Component Visibility. You can turn it off, hit Apply, hit OK, and now you will not see that distinction between switching between the two. That do have that does have the, with great power come great responsibilities, have the issue that you could be drawing things while you think you are in the lid while you're in the box. So I actually prefer to leave it on just because I'm not the smartest guy in the world. So that gives me at least a little bit of chance to know what I'm working in. So let's start working in the lid. I'm going to show a couple of different techniques as I'm going through here. Really hope that all this is just helpful. So I'm going to start a new sketch. I'm in the lid. Nothing have been created in the lid yet. So I'm going to create a new sketch, and I'm going to sketch on top of that where the top of the box is, right? Because that's kind of like where we're going to be. And I'm actually going to use the outside of this box here to kind of like define our lid. So I'm going to hit P for project. P for project. And then I could go around and select all the edges, or I could select faces of things that I want to project. I want you to be aware of that there's actually also a bodies in here. I mean, this is these small things, but this is what most people, at least I miss, right? So if I click on body instead, I can just click on that body and it will project everything on the outside of that body. And it will like save me a few clicks instead of, I think many times I will be clicking all the way around. So just like that, I've kind of like captured the whole outside edge. I'm actually going to hit alpha line, and I'm going to make my lid, I want my lid to go straight across here. And then I'm going to go ahead here and hit Q for press pull. So now I can go in here and I can select our three different sections, and I can pull up here. I'm going to make this lid 3 millimeters thick, and voila, there is now a lid on our box. Let's go up to our box here, click up here, and there is a lid. That was easy. Now I wanted to show a couple of things here. So many times on this type of boxes, and I don't know what this is, a tackle box, a box for your screws, whatever it is. Many times you will see that the box actually kind of like is a little bit bigger, or the lid is a little bit bigger than the box and kind of like overhangs a little bit. Here's a neat little trick. Let me go back to the lid here. So if I want to make this lid a little bit bigger on the diameter, you could hit the good old Q, right? Press pull, and we could select, hold down Control or Command if you're on a Mac. I could select all the faces going around here. Right? Select all these and just make an offset face like this. So if I wanted to go out 1 millimeter, hit Enter, and I just offset that lid out 1 millimeter around there. I don't know, that might be obvious for some people, but that's like one of those small tricks. No sketches. I just did a little offset, just using the press pull inside, on those faces. I could just offset them out. Perfectly fine, right? Even if we change the size of the box, the green box, if we decided to mess around with the dimensions of it, that lid and that offset is parametric. You will update with it. Now, another thing I wanted to show you is now if I want this edge here, the inside edge, to kind of like go over the box a little bit, a couple of different ways we could do that. And I want to show you this just because I think this is kind of just interesting, I guess. One way that I probably would have thought of first is, okay, let me go ahead here and start a new sketch on the underside of the lid. And actually, let me turn the box off on the light bulb over here. Like that there. Excuse me. Now we could do what I kind of did before. We could hit P for project. We could say we can select, well, we could turn the sketch. There should be a sketch on in here under the lid. The first one had kind of like the outside profile there. So we could go in here and project this sketch back over to this new sketch. So we're bringing the first projected over to the next one, like this here. And then we could use again that body to get the outside of it too. Let me hit OK. Let me hide that other sketch. So now, if I go in and I hit press pull again, and I hope that this is visible. If I go in here and hit press pull and I select that edge, let me turn the box back on. Then we could kind of like create that. We expanded out the width of the box 1 millimeter, and then kind of like creating a lip down. Now, of course, I don't want the lip to come this far down, but you know how those sometimes goes down like, another millimeter or something like that. That would be one way to do this. So an extrusion, let me go back here so you can see on the top. So now, and I don't have any clearances in here. Clearances in a whole other discussion we can talk about later. I have actually done live streams on that, but now this, I don't know if you can see it. I'm always worried about, because if we lose people, then it's kind of silly that I'm trying to do that. What I'm trying to get at is now I've kind of like created a lid that goes, you see how the lid goes over, right? So that was one way we could do that. Let me go back to the lid. So I did that by opening up a sketch on the back side. I projected the outer edge, the inner edge, and then extruded it out 1 millimeter. But here's another way you can do this that I just think is kind of just like one of these tools to keep in mind. I'm back to where I didn't have any sketches, right? You could also have done Q for press pull. Oh, somebody's sending me a text, huh? Press pull, and then we could go out that 1 millimeter, making the whole lid thicker by 1 millimeter. And then we could have done the command we used yesterday, the shell command, boom, and we could make that 1 millimeter. That will give us the 1 millimeter wall we had. However, that would make this too thin, because that should only have been 1 millimeter deep. Then we could go in again and hit Q and select this face, go to new offset. We did this yesterday, and add 2 millimeters to that. And we have ended up with the exact same result. 2 millimeters, 1 millimeter? 1 millimeter, I think. We should have ended up with the exact same result as I just did before, with a sketch and extrusion. A sketch where we projected everything, and then an extrusion. But look down on our history tree here now. We never had to create a sketch. We did it all with features. Let's turn the box back on. Let's go up here, and you can see we kind of like achieved the same result. Actually, maybe the section analysis was the best way to show this. Should have achieved, if I did the numbers right, we achieved the same result with that overlay. Oh, actually, maybe it was. Okay, so it was. Now that we can see it here, let's go back to the lid. Edit. Was it 2? There we go. It was 2. I was right the first time. So now we have that lip going over there. So just a different way to do it. This way here, we didn't have to create any sketches at all. What is kind of funny, you know, and that's just one of those things that I'm not going to tell you that one is wrong and one is right. I think that it's just interesting that there's different ways you can do things. Okay, so I might run a little bit over today, actually, so be patient with me. So let's get to the hinge part. And I wanted to show you something that I'm a big fan of. But again, you know, I'm definitely not the champion of all champions. You know, you got to use your best judgment. This goes back to what I said right in the beginning of this whole live stream about breaking things in. I was very specific yesterday to create these different components to make sure that if we go to the box, whatever belongs to the box is in that component. If we go to the lid, then everything that we create in that is in that component. But now I'm going to start putting some hinges and this plastic latch on. And you know what? This is kind of like where we start merging the two designers a little bit, right? Like interacting with the two. And that's when I start to like laying things out and doodling a little bit. And, you know, I think that if you're fairly new to Fusion, hopefully you could follow me this far. I hope that this next portion will kind of like just, you know, if it seems a little confusing, just take it in, because it maybe just open up a new door for you. What I'm actually going to do now is I'm going to go to this left view, just like that. And I'm going to put the hinge on. I'm going to start with the hinge in the back. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start a sketch in the live stream box out here. So this is going to be a sketch that I want to use and share between both the component and the lid. It's really not anything, you know, sacred or anything else, but it kind of like goes with my layout sketches thing. So I'm going to say I'm going to create a sketch, and I'm going to start on the plane, and I'm going to do it on this plane in here. By the way, you will see me do this all the time. If you can't select something in here, If you hold down left mouse button long enough, this little dialog will come up, and we can now select the YZ plane right there. So now I'm actually sketching in the main one here, and I'm just gonna draw a circle. So C for circle, I'll do it out in space, and I'm gonna make this 5 and type that there. So now we got a circle, not really helpful. But what we could do is I'm gonna hit P for project, and I'm gonna just make sure I select the specific edge. And I'm actually gonna borrow this right from the box, so that edge there. And then I can go in here and say, well, you know what, I want the circle and that line to be tangent. So now that is traveling up and down there. And then I'm gonna give it a dimension, default dimension, and place a dimension right here. 2.5 is probably good right here. And this is gonna be my layout sketch for the hinge. Now, while I'm in here, I could actually also, because this is just a layout sketch, I could actually also go over and maybe we can while we're in here, we could take care of kind of like the latch portion over here too. So I could hit P for project, and again, I'm going to select this edge right here, and then I'm going to create another line, and just select somewhere around here. I'm just going to draw something up, and this here is just me drawing. I mean, this is where if you are a plastic engineer, if you have ever done boxes like this, you are welcome to shake your head. Again, I'm just trying to teach the tools, nothing more than that. So let's just first, I wasn't supposed to do that. I had to fill it. I was not done in that sketch yet. So let's just add some dimensions to fully define this thing. So this thing here, I'm just gonna make that 3. 3 is good. This one, maybe 1.5, and this is just whatever we want to control. And this could definitely be a lot different. We probably want to do some kind of a thickness of this. Let's make that 1. Let's make an overall length down to the bottom here. Call that 15. It is now fully defined. It's black. That's all I'm going to do with this one right now. Stop the sketch. So what I did was I created a sketch. Now this is going to be, for some people, this is going to be a little bit odd because we're looking in the live stream box, the top assembly. We have everything down here, and now that sketch is planted right down here. But it actually got its own sketch folder up here, and that's where I'm going to reference it from now on, these 2 sketches. So I'm going to rename them to layout. That way I know that is kind of like sketches I use for laying things out. Now let's start out with the hinge here, and I hope that this makes somewhat sense. So let's start out with the hinge, and let's do the lid first. So I'm actually going to hide the box. So now we can kind of see this. I'm going to make the lid active because I still want to work in the lid, but you can see that sketch that I laid out in the main assembly is visible. So now I can actually go ahead here and say, well, let's do a press pull, hit Q, and I can select that sketch that is not even in that component because we're in the lid component right now. And now if I drag, every time there's an arrow, drag out. If I drag out, you will see that it's going to be a cut. It's red. I'm going to turn that into a join because I actually want this to be part of this lid. Now, I want to show you another thing. I drew that sketch right on the plane there. I actually want 2 hinges, but I don't want them to start in the center. I don't know, you might have known this, but did you know that in the standard extrusion up here, that the first thing you can select down here is actually where the sketch should start from? The extrusion doesn't have to start from your sketch. You can actually offset it. Who would have known? What does this mean? Let's just make it 20 long. What does this mean? It means that this extrusion right here is using this sketch, but I didn't say it doesn't have to start where this sketch is. I could actually, in the standard extrusion, I can actually offset the starting point over. So if you never knew that, I think that was worth you know, at least something. So now the sketch is there. You can do that anywhere inside of Fusion. So with that little thing, I'm gonna just modify this one a little bit. I'm gonna make a couple of changes to it. So I'm still in the lid here. I'm gonna open up the sketch on this face, and I'm actually just gonna close this up a little bit. So I'm gonna draw a line from here up to this point, right there, and that should probably be tangent. This line tangent to this arc there, and P for project to get this edge, because I'm looking, and it's hard to see under the live stream, I'm looking for this discolorization here that shows me that this is now enclosed. I'm going to hit Q, and I'm going to select that little sliver because I'm actually just going to add that material in there on this little thing here. And I like to use up to object. Then we can select this face here, and then you just got to know about the chain faces. Boom. Just like that. We kind of like got that extruded up there. I'm going to finish this last now where we edit. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to create another sketch. And this could all have been in one sketch, but I'm going to create another sketch on this face here. I'm going to do a circle in the center, and let's make it 3. And let's do a line drawing down from this point to there. And maybe a line across like that there. Right, a circle, a line down, a line down. If I now hit Q, I can select all these, and I can now cut all these away. Again, I like to use up to object, select the backside there, boom, and now I kind of got my hinge. Now right now the end of this hinge is right at the center of this. You could, if you wanted to, you could hit Q again for press pull, and we could actually, you know, add a little bit of material if you want to make sure that this kind of like snaps in and overcuts right there on the edge. So that's how I would create this on the lid. And I know I'm going to have some interferences with the box, but like I said, this is not me creating the perfect box. This is me showing you some different tools. So with this created, I actually want another one of these on this other side. What I'm going to use? I'm going to use the mirror function. And if I'm going too fast, I'm sorry. Rewind, watch it again. I'm trying to show more than I have time for. I like to use features. I've said that before. So in the pattern for the mirror, I select the feature because now I can just go ahead and select the different features in here that kind of like we use to create this. And we're gonna mirror that across that same plane. We actually sketch that other one on, and then we have used this right here. Now that is going to be the hinges for this lid. Let's turn the box back on. There we go. So that's going to be the hinges, and I know there probably is going to be some interferences and things like that, but that's the hinges. Now let's go in and do the latching thing, or the hinge part for the box. So now I'm actually going to switch over to the box mode, and this is why now we could actually hide the lid. This is why I love using kind of like these layout sketches, is because now I can actually go in here, create another sketch, and I'm going to select that same plane, and again I can use this as my reference to make that, I made that hole 3. Press Q for press pull. And then I can draw out here, we're getting the pin. But I'm actually going to go over here to the extrusions. I was talking about before how you can change the start. Whew, you can also go symmetrical. So now we can just go however long we want. Now, this one is gray and not green. It's because this is actually, right now we have actually created a multi-body part. It's not attached. If we go in and look at the box, and we go into the bodies, there's two bodies. Well, don't worry. We are just going to, we're going to fix that right now. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open another sketch on that same plane we did before on the box here, right? And now I can do what we did before. I can go in and create an alpha line. I can snap into this one, and we can just draw a line over, snap that to this, snap that over to this line, and then we can use our standard. We can make that horizontal, make that horizontal. We can make this point and this point vertical, this point and this point vertical. Now that is fully defined. And look again about we get that chains in here. So if I hit Q now, and I select that little portion in there, do this symmetric again, now we are creating, attaching that, make it -2, and now you'll see that it turned green because now it became one body because we attached that. Okay? I hope just watching this gives you some thoughts and some ideas. Now I don't want this one to, this is going to be unstable. So let's create another sketch. Again, I'm still in the box. I'm going to create another sketch on the back side. Now this is pretty cool. So I created a sketch on this round here. I'm going to hit P for project. In the standard one over here, I'm just going to select this face and it will actually project everything. Hit OK to that. Q for press pull. And boom. That's all we needed to do that. To create that little attachment down there. Let's do that again on the other end. So I'm literally just opening up a new sketch on this circle here. Hit P for project, and I'm stealing that whole face. Hit Q, and I can select that. And this is definitely, this is in my opinion, fully legit way to kind of like modeling this up here. Let's turn the lid back on so we can kind of see this. Oh, back on. So now we can see here how we have the latch going around there. And like I said, we can talk about all about tolerances and clearances and all that stuff in another debate. So I hit my 30 minutes. I'm going to go 10 minutes over here. I want to show you a couple of other neat tricks wrapping this up here. And actually, I'm also going to model up the O-ring from yesterday because somebody asked me if I could put that in there too. So I hope I'm not. I hope that this makes sense. And there's other ways to do it. This is just kind of like how I would approach something like this. Let's use that other layout sketch we laid out for and create the hints. Excuse me. So I'm going to go back to the box. So now we're back in the box. Let me hide the lid up here on the light bulb. Well, we have that. We can use that little sketch we created there. So if I hit Q, press pull, again, I select that little area. Probably going to go symmetric again. We can draw this little portion out here and do that maybe 2 millimeters. Now, you see that I actually kind of like made a mistake or missing something here because it's sitting in its own little space out here right now, right? That maybe not be where we want, but I wanted to show you this because I think this is kind of cool. How about this technique? Let's go ahead and open up a new sketch on this face. And let's draw a rectangle. Just draw a rectangle up like that. I'm going to hit alpha line. Make sure that I snap into the midpoint of our little tab. Place that line vertical there. Here's my favorite constraint. Symmetry. Symmetry, click one endpoint, another endpoint, and then the line. Boom, and it's placed. Now it's symmetrical right here. That's one of my favorite ones. Okay, so what do I want to do here? Let's, what I wanted to show you was, let's go ahead here and make this line collinear to this. Let's put some kind of dimension on here. Let's make this maybe 8. Let's put an overall width on this thing here too. You should always fully define your sketches. Let's make that 5. So here I have a rectangle drawn up on here on this face, kind of like stole the top edge of this one. How about use something like a loft and select this face and then select the face on the little tab here and create a little loft to attach those two together. Now you'll see the colors, we lost the green. That's just because the software can't figure out what body was in control there. Add that back on there. So that could be one way to attach those two with a little loft development. I don't know what our plastic engineers thinks of that. But so one of the big lessons from this, I think, was that layout sketch, that at any point now, if we go in and edit that layout sketch, we could mess around with the hinges, and we could also play around with this latch if we wanted to. So that's what all I'm gonna do with these layout sketches at this point, from this point going forward. But let's get the latch on. I'll get this snapped into space here. I'm gonna hide this top sketch so that's not in our way anymore. And let's go back into the lid and turn the lid back on. Make that the active component, because now we actually gotta make a little flip coming down here, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up a sketch on the little shelf we created here on the lid. And again, now I'm maybe again going a little bit too fast. And I'm just gonna draw another rectangle, snap in there, and why not again use the L line command, so we snap into the midpoint, just draw a line out, and we can again use the symmetry, 2 endpoints, and then the line, D, and now we can control however big we want to make that flap, Q, and now you will see that, oops, if I select the right thing, now you will see that flap coming down, down right here. So let's make that 12 long. Hit enter. Right. Let me go up and turn the live stream box on up here so we can kind of see where we are at. We got the hinges and now the little latch here. Now, here's an interesting thing. We could, because we had a chamfer on this little boy here, we could maybe use that here to get that shape into the lid. So here's a neat thing. If we go in and we turn the lid back on, make that active, we could go in and say we're going to use the combine tool, and I'm going to select cut. And I'm going to also select keep tool bodies, because then I'm going to select my target body is the lid. The tool I'm going to using is the box. And then by saying keeping tools, it will not delete the box. Hit OK. And first, nothing looks like nothing is happening. But if we're hiding the box for a second, you will see that we pretty much just molded that shape into this. Okay, and now where you have your knowledge from using offset faces with press pull, we could now continue, still in the lid, we can now continue working with this. So we probably, because we now need this opening to be bigger for it to snap out, we could go in here and we could offset this face by a little bit. I don't know by how much, maybe 100 and, no. Minus 0.15, like that. We maybe also would leave a little bit of clearances on each sides here, so we could go out minus 50 thousandths. Let's turn the lid back on. So let's go up and turn it on here. So now you can see, I don't know, maybe we have to go up, but now this thing will kind of like snap into place, and there will be clearances on each side in here. And at this point, a lot of other things would need to happen to this part that I have not touched on yet. I mean, first of all, we'll absolutely have to put a big fillet different places. One of them could be, add a big fillet on this edge So, you know, we could add a big fillet like that. So when this lid closes down, it can bend out over the edge. Of course, every internal fillets, there needs to be fillets in here. These places there needs to be fillets. But that's, like I say, I'm not trying to make the favorite box. I have 2 more things to do, and then I'll shut up. The last things we need to do this one, we need to make sure that this, because now this is an assembly with the lid in here, and I'm not gonna make this right click, appearances. This is just for my sake. Let's paint this glossy, and let's make this red. Better. Okay, I need something. I can't look at the steel. 2 things we need to do. We need to make this actually an assembly with some joints in it. And then I also said I want to model the O-ring. It was going to take 2 seconds. So first of all, let's add the joints in here. We're going to go back to what we talked about Monday. I'm actually going to use as-built joint. And I'm going to, so we talked about Monday that you could right click and you could say the box could be all fixed. You could also go ahead and say as-built joint and select the box and the top component. That will make those two rigid. Then I'm going to right click and select repeat as built. We can select the box and the lid, but instead of selecting rigid, we could now select revolute, and then we could just place that on, the easiest probably be like right on the center there. Of course, the wrong one spins around. We hit OK. But what we have now is we have that lid motion. Now, this is a, you know, Fusion 360 is mechanical design software, so we're not gonna animate that this thing snaps, you know, that the plastic moves out and go in. That I would never ever worry about that for what we're trying to do in here. You could add, and I know again, clearances where this thing is moving up and down, dropping and things like that. You could go in and add context sets in here, but again, it will hit as soon as this thing hits the top right down there. That will hit. I would still add the joint, but I would probably hit revert and just leave it like this here. So that's one thing we need to make sure we do. The other question I got with an email yesterday was if I could please put that O-ring in we had yesterday. And yes, and the O-ring in here would actually be a third component, right? We have the lid, we have the box. So and this is fine too. In our process here right now to say, oh, we're gonna add another component. We can at any time go up here and right click and say, let's add a new component. And let's call that one the O-ring, right? Create that as an O-ring. Now, let's go in and create that O-ring. And if you didn't watch yesterday, you might want to watch yesterday's videos just so you can pick up on certain things here. But I'm going to open up a new sketch in the O-ring active. I'm going to open up a new sketch. I'm going to select that same face, the YZ face. And it's going to ask for the capture position because I moved it up the lid. I'm going to say yes to that. We could use that fancy slicing tool we talked about yesterday. That was kind of handy, right? And I'm going to draw up the O-ring. C for circle. The O-ring was 2 millimeters. That was what we started out the whole thing about yesterday. We can make that O-ring tangent to the bottom of the O-ring groove. That's actually the one we have right there. It's very, very handy. And then, that I knew that. Then I'm going to hit L for line. I'm going to make sure that I snap the center. This is just a helping line. And then I could say make this center point coincident with this line, for example. There is our O-ring placed. Now we can use what we talked about yesterday. So when we made the O-ring groove, we use sweep. We can use the sweep again. Right? We can go in here. We can select this here, and then for the path we can now go in and select that exact same edge going all the way around, and because I had left, oh, hang on, cancel out of that for a second. Let's get rid of slice. There we go. Slice will stay on. Let's go into sweep, select these half moons, and select whatever edge we decide we're gonna select to get all the way around here, like that. That's gonna be a new body because this is gonna be just the O-ring. Hit OK to that. Let's go up and turn the box shader on there, and of course the O-ring is now laying in here. Now we can go ahead and right click appearances, because that is definitely not silver either. That will probably be black, like that, and then we have created this here. Wow, that was a long one. Man, you guys are awesome for sticking around. You know what I'm going to do now? I am going to save this one, because that's what you always do. And don't I can't type and talk at the same time. Don't forget that if you want to get these models, I'll be happy to share them with you. Send me an email, lars.christensen@autodesk.com, and I can share you these files. You can look at them and you can take them apart and do whatever you want with them. These live streams are really just an attempt to add a little bit more value to your Fusion 360 experience. I don't hope this was a waste of your time. I really just tried over the yesterday and today, show some different modeling techniques, some different way of thinking of things. Like I said, this was one of the biggest things for me when I started seeing other people model. That helped me a lot. Just somehow things falling into place. Man, 176 people. I'm so appreciative of you guys taking the time. We just hit, I think this morning, 3 million views on the channel. We're almost at 50,000 subscribers. You guys are absolutely awesome. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, any future topics you would like, my email is down in the description. I haven't quite figured out what tomorrow's and Friday's topics are going to be. They are going to be there. There's no live stream next week. I got to go to Autodesk headquarters in San Francisco. So next week's going to be a break. But yeah, if you're watching the recording, thank you so much. If you like this, thumbs up. If you don't, be honest, thumbs down. If you're in the live stream, I'm going to jump in there right now and say hi to everybody. Take care, folks. Have an awesome day.